So the World Cup is again around the corner, and this event uh, every year, every 4 years, sorry, is a reminder that Americans have their own games and are mostly indifferent to soccer. This is bewildering to soccer fans because the rest of the world loves soccer, is soccer crazed, yet Americans are genuinely bored by it. So every few decades, there's a push to get Americans to see what a great game soccer is. So investors put together a league, pour millions of dollars into it, and promote it by bringing in a major international star. In the 70s, it was Pele. In the 2000s, Beckham, and now it's Messi. And it does work. It creates a buzz. However, Americans then show up at the stands and actually watch the game. And once they watch soccer, they're reminded why they prefer their traditional American games. So why is that? Why do Americans have a natural immunity to the charms of soccer? So there are four theories that are usually trotted out as possible explanations. I'll give the three incorrect ones, or the ones that don't really answer the actual problem, and then the one that I think does. So the first theory is the Americans like Americans theory. Okay? This theory that the observation that Americans like Americans builds on the observation that Americans don't excel in soccer because America's best athletes go into football, basketball, baseball, hockey, MMA, whatever. Um, and the athletic leftovers wind up in soccer. And the result is that the best soccer players and teams in the world are not American. And because, according to the theory, Americans like Americans, American sports fans cannot attach themselves emotionally to soccer because there aren't any good American soccer players or teams. The problem with this theory is basketball, baseball, hockey, golf, and MMA. Okay, so it's evident that Americans can and do attach themselves to foreign players with exotic names in virtually all the major American sports. The second theory is the commercials theory, and this explanation holds that Americans don't like soccer because they aren't exposed to it enough. And thus it remains a foreign element in American culture. Okay. So why are Americans underexposed to soccer? Because it's not on TV enough. And why is it not on TV enough? Because it isn't profitable for TV stations to air a game that has no timeouts. Okay. It's simply too hard to sell commercials for soccer broadcasts because there aren't these time slots to insert commercials. The problem with this explanation, with this theory, is that NASCAR doesn't have timeouts either, and yet advertisers have found a way to advertise their goods to NASCAR viewers. Likewise, TV stations all over the world have found a way to advertise their goods during soccer matches. Okay. This is because sports consumers all over the world actually like soccer, just like Americans actually like NASCAR. Okay. So the fans are devoted to the sport, and thus they watch the game. And that draws in advertisers to advertise with or without timeouts. Then there's the limited sports space um, explanation. This theory says that there's a limited amount of space for sports in a given society. And once this space has been filled by one sport, there's no room for other sports to take root. Um, and so, according to this theory, in the late 19th century, when soccer was popularized around the globe through European imperialism, the US already had its own dominant sports, at boxing and baseball. However, this theory, as soon as you utter it, this theory falls apart because everyone knows that boxing and baseball are no longer the dominant sports in America. Okay, so it's evidence that we can see daily that new games did, in fact, invade the American sports space and conquer territory there from the established games in 19th century America, American society. Um, so just this observation that some sports did, like football, basketball, did come in, take root, and grab a market share from boxing and baseball, just reemphasizes the original question of, well, why not soccer then? And the theory that I hold, that I think holds the key to the answer is the violence theory. Um, this explanation highlights the commonplace and obvious observation that Americans like rough, violent games. And when you compare any American game to its European counterpart, it's evident that the American version is more physical and violent. Okay, see, for example, football versus rugby or football versus soccer, the NBA versus European basketball, North American hockey versus European hockey, baseball to cricket, or NASCAR to Formula One. Okay? In NASCAR, the pushing and the bumping are integral to the race, okay? Which is why the cars are tougher in NASCAR. Okay? They're built to withstand the bumps and bruises, whereas Formula One cars are delicate and refined, like thoroughbred horses. So, according to this theory, soccer is too soft for American sensibilities. Okay, so certainly soccer fans sometimes do witness collisions or kicks to the face, but these are not integral to the sport. In fact, they're penalized. Okay, they're external to the sport. They're inappropriate. In football, by comparison, colliding and hitting is the game. Or if you look at hockey, the rise and decline of the NHL in America tells the same story. Hockey rose to prominence in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when fans could watch spectacular collisions on the ice and crashes into the boards. But when the league took steps to reduce this physicality, the game's popularity plummeted. And the same is true of the NBA, same story. The constant complaint one hears from Americans about soccer is that soccer players flop all the time. Okay, it's an aesthetic turnoff for American audiences. Okay, Americans like games in which players take the hit and go on and play through injury. Okay, so if a ball player is hit by a pitch and can still walk, he's expected to walk it off, pretending that it doesn't hurt. And the same is true in football, hockey, obviously, combat sports. When flopping became prevalent in the NBA, American fans complained about it so much that the league instituted penalties against it. Indeed, it's one of the things that this flopping epidemic is one of the things that was associated with the NBA's decline in popularity from its height in the 90s to its nadir in the 2000s. Um, so what this indicates is that Americans like rough physical games, and soccer is too elegant and refined for the American taste. Then an additional contributing factor to soccer's image problem, to this image problem in America, is that it's broadly seen as a girls' sport. Okay. In America, both boys and girls play soccer in elementary school, but in middle school, boys move on to their various American games, right? To baseball, football, basketball, whereas the girls continue in soccer. So soccer in America, therefore, has gained an image as a game for children and for girls or women. Whereas as boys grow up and approach manhood, they're expected to play rougher games. And this means that the best boy athletes go to football, basketball, and baseball, whereas the best girl athletes stick with soccer. And this explains why the United States excels at women's soccer, but not in men's soccer. Thanks.